Hey everyone, Hammer Dan here with Hammer Performance. So today we're going to show you how to disassemble, clean, and reassemble an oil pump for a Sportster / Buell, earlier model Buell or whatnot. We think it's one of those things that at any point in time, if you have something, debris, sand, material, a motor failure, something of that nature, where we think we've had something go through the motor, or we've found particles in the motor or whatnot, it's a good idea to remove the oil pump from the bike and disassemble it, check it out and see if we have anything wrong with the gyros, anything of that nature, clean it really well and put it back together. It's an easy thing to do. And it's a good safeguard there just in case, because if we have an oil pump that's bad and doesn't work and you go through the process of rebuilding the motor or whatnot, we could have a failure again with no oil and whatnot, so we don't want to do that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different oil pumps that we have here and some of the upgrades that Harley's done over the years for the oil pumps. So we have 3 different models that Harley's come up with, or 2 different upgrades since the original, which on the bottom of the oil pump itself, if you look, it has the part number on there with a dash 91, and then the first update that they had was a dash 98. You can see on this one here is a dash 98, and then in 2007 they had the change as well there. So we'll go through some of the differences here with the oil pumps here real quick between the different years. So in 91, the original oil pumps that came out, the scavenge section was pretty small in the 91 earlier model oil pumps. And they were having problems with some wet sumping out of the bikes and whatnot, so they revamped in 98 and came out with a 98 updated oil pump that has a lot taller scavenging system. Diameters and everything are the same as the 91s. It's just that this scavenging section here, as you can see, is a lot taller. I don't have a 91 to show you, but that is the 98 with a lot longer scavenging section and a smaller return feed section there. So, and then in 2007, they changed it again. Now keep in mind, all of these oil pumps carry the same early part number, the dash 91. So if you go to update your oil pump and order an oil pump from Harley now or purchase one from us, you're going to get the dash 07. It's going to be the latest oil pump that Harley's put out. They've made the changes but never changed the part number. They stuck with the original part number for whatever reason there. So real quick to show you some of the differences between a 98, the updated 98 that Harley came out with, and the 07 update that they came up with. Again, they made the gyro section even taller to scavenge even more oil out of the bike and back to the oil bladder, and they made the inlet gyro section a lot skinnier. So if we compare, as well as they machined the body internally bigger in diameter as well out of the pump as compared to the 98, which has kind of a smaller sleeve area in there. But if we look at these 2 scavenge gyros here and compare the height differences, you can see the taller one for the 07 here and the 98, the difference in height there that they went even farther with. And then as well, they made it in bigger in diameter. So if we set this on top and we take a look at the diameter there, you can see the bigger in diameter there between the 2. And then of course within doing that, on the 07 they made the spacer in between a lot thinner there between the 2. You see those 2 there. And then the inlet pump feed area they made a lot skinnier as well. You can't really tell. And then diameter wise is the same. So only the scavenging section there did they go bigger in diameter and then taller as well to scavenge even more out of the bike to help prevent wet sumping in the bike itself. So with that being said, we'll show you some of the reasons why we want to go in and check. As you can see here on the inlet part, we can brake there, which we have here. Pulled this one out. Sure enough, we didn't see it. We grabbed it out of there and it fell right apart on us. So we can see the breakage there on one of the gyros from any kind of material or heavier debris pieces of aluminum that have run through the oil pump itself. If we take a look internally, we can't even get this gyro section out of here, the scavenging section out of there, but if you look in that corner there, you can see the crack right there in that corner. And again, that's from a big piece of material going through that oil pump from the oil bladder and whatnot and getting stuck in there and destroying the oil pump. So again, some of the other things that you really want to pay attention to, we may not have cracks or breaks or anything like that within the oil pump itself, but you want to take a look at your gyros here and check and watch for, you can see some of the pitting right there that we have. That's not super bad. But you know, you want to be careful there, because if there's any real big nicks or dings or chips out of any of the fins that are there, you want to go ahead and either replace the gyros or a whole new oil pump. And like I say, we really suggest that if you have a 91 oil pump, if your bike is 97 and earlier, that you update to the newer oil pump for scavenging reasons, especially if you're doing a build with us or a performance build with us. To where we want to make sure we're not going to wet sump in the bike in that with everything being sealed up a lot better. So that's kind of a breakdown of the two different upgrades. 98 and 07 is when they came out with the two different upgrades. Differences between the Buells, of course, is the fittings are different on the bottom end there that go into the bike as compared to the Sportsters. Otherwise, the 91 to current or present with the Sportsters fits right out of the box and whatnot. So again, we highly recommend it to go ahead and upgrade to the earlier or later model oil pump if you have a 97 and earlier oil pump and whatnot. So, okay, with that being said, we'll talk here a little bit about cleaning, disassembling, what we got to do here to do this. The oil pump sits underneath and behind your cam cover on the right-hand side of the bike there. If you look under there, you can see it. There's hoses and whatnot. So the first thing you'll want to do is go ahead and detach the hoses. It's going to sit like this under there. So you're going to have your inlet hose here from the oil bladder pumping oil in. You're going to have your out. Your pressure fitting here out to the oil pump and whatnot, and then your return line here that goes back to the bladder. So you got three hoses that you need to go ahead and remove. This one here is a 9/16 and a 5/8, just unthread it, pull it right off of there. These are going to have hose clamps on it, so you'll need to try and get underneath there and get the hose clamps off. Manual says that you can remove this without removing the cam cover, and you can remove it in the frame. Okay, it's pretty tight under there, so you'll have to get under there, probably a lot of cussing to try to get the hose clamps off and whatnot to eventually get it out. But once you get the hoses off of there and you're ready to take it out, you're going to have two Allens in the bottom, and they're going to be kitty corner from each other. It's the only thing that holds the oil pump up underneath in the case there. Okay, so loosen the two Allens that you have on the bottom. Those will come right out of there, and then you'll have to do some finagling under there to move the oil pump around, drop it down and out, and finagle it to eventually finally get it out of there. If you don't want to struggle as much and you're doing a build with us, you surely can send us your cam cover if you're interested in getting your cam cover cut down and going to that little more industrial look. It looks pretty cool. You have better access to your hoses and oil pump. It's all right there. So maybe something to check out if you're looking at doing, getting into the cam box down the road. So with that being said, we have the oil pump out. You can see this one's pretty nasty, pretty dirty. We're going to go ahead and clean this up. So what you're going to need is basically a Torx T27 socket to go ahead and take the two Torx bolts off the bottom. So we'll go ahead and break those loose, get those out of there. We'll pull those right off. It's very straightforward. It's not rocket science here on taking this apart. I know some people get a little concerned thinking that it's, there's a lot of mechanical parts inside here and don't want things falling out, but that's not the case. So we pull it off. As we can see, we have our bottom piece here. We have our gyros and a rubber O-ring that's in there. So with that rubber O-ring, we can go ahead and take a little razor blade here and kind of pry underneath it to get it up out of there. Pull that out and set it aside. If you tap the bottom, you might be able to get them to come out of there. We're hoping. There we go. Okay, so we have the body. Basically, that's what it looks like inside. Pretty dirty. And then we have our gyros here. So we have our scavenging or return section here. We have our spacer, and then we have the inlet gyros there. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just go ahead and wipe them off with some paper towels so that we can inspect them and see what we look like here. Okay, so we're going to look inside on the round areas in there to make sure that we have no pitting and no scoring internally in there. It actually all looks pretty good. We have a little bit of marking on the top here. I'm not going to be too concerned with that. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and take our center section here, and again try to wipe it as good as we can so we can inspect it. No sense in cleaning something that's already broken. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the outside of that. That looks pretty good. I don't really see anything too alarming there. On the scavenge section, again, we'll wipe it up here real good. See what we got. Let's take a look. That looks pretty good as well. I don't see hardly anything on there. That looks really good. And then the outer body. Okay, take a look inside there. Looks pretty good as well. I don't really see anything in there, so this looks really nice. Okay. And then we got our spacer here as well. In between the two. Looks pretty good. Fingernail to see. Can't just kind of visual. So I think we're okay there. We'll take a look at inside here. We'll get a paper towel in there just to kind of eyeball, but I'm pretty sure this is good too. So we look at the walls in there, make sure there's no big gouges or scars or anything. That looks pretty good as well. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to take all these pieces and we are going to go over here to our solvent tank. Follow me over here. Make sure we don't tie up our wires. We have the luxury of a parts cleaning tank. At home, we suggest getting some brake clean. You can soap and water it first. I would suggest soaping and watering it. Try and get all the oil out. Scrub it the best you can. Any of the caked burnt oil that's on there. Scrub till you're content. That. That one, spacer. Bottom, middle, top section. And then we have the body here that you're going to want to scrub pretty good. It's probably the biggest thing. Inside cleans up pretty well. Right. Okay, so we'll blow these out. if that's loud. Our bottom piece. Okay, once we get those clean, then I suggest doing a final spray down with brake clean. So come on this way. We'll go ahead. We'll just do that right here. Brake clean helps get all the really fine particles off of there from the solvent tank and things like that. And then the body. Okay. We'll go ahead and hit these with air one more time. Real quick. As we take a trip around the top. All right, then back to the bench. Stupid cable. Okay. So there we have it. We have all our clean parts. We can take the oil ring. Now, if you have a gasket kit, like a full Cometic gasket kit, this rubber O-ring should be in there. A lot of times it's still definitely usable unless you rip it, cut it, tear it. So just be careful with it there. We got that, and we got our 2 bolts here. Hold the bottom. Okay, so if you got a half quart of oil or something of that nature lying around, I like to keep some fresh oil in a Rubbermaid or a container here so that I can lube parts, or I like to put my lifters in there and let them pump up and whatnot. So basically we're going to start with our scavenge section. That's going to go in first. So I like to just dip it in oil. It doesn't have to be crazy here. A lot of it's going to come out anyways, but I get that oily there, and we'll just slide that right down in there. Pretty straightforward. Okay, and then we're going to take our middle piece here. Make sure that's lubricated pretty well. We'll grab it here. And there's a flat on either side of the inner section that's there, and there's a flat on the piece here that you can see. So we got to kind of line that up, and a lot of times you have to rotate it until they match up and it falls in. Okay. And then at this point, our spacer is going to go in there, and if you look inside here, we have a big notch down here and a littler notch up there. I don't know if you can see that. So we have a big notch here and a smaller notch on that section. We can get a little bit of oil on there, coat both sides, pretty easy. Going to fall right into the notch there, just like that. Okay, line up the notches, it'll fall right in. Do we miss our other section? Really? Did I forget it over here? Where did I forget it? Huh, I found the section. Oh, there it is. Forgot it in the solvent tank. See, we post all the stupid mistakes we make. All right. So let's come back over here. And we will go ahead and wipe this one down. All right. So now I'm going to coat this one. Get inside pretty good. And this will fall right in the top here, just like that. Kind of wipe off some of the top oil. We'll coat our little centerpiece here. Again, it's pretty straightforward once you take it apart and you take a look. Can't really go wrong with it, but it is a good thing to check and put it together. Again, we have a flat on the small piece that has to line up with the flat that's in there. This can be a little tricky as we spin it around. We want to get it to line up and fall in just like that. Okay, and then at this point, we're going to go ahead and put the rubber O-ring in there. And then we have our bottom piece. So, as we put this together with our bottom piece, we have our return hose, our return hose nipple there. That needs to face towards the back of the bike. So with that, then we have our pressure hose nipple there. That has to go to the front like that. It's very important, otherwise you'll get it all in there and realize you got it on backwards. And I don't think, yeah, so the holes are set up where you can't, it has to go one way. That's a good thing, so it's stupid proof. We can't put it that way. The way it's made, holes have to line up, and it goes that way. Okay. Otherwise, I know I would put it on backwards and put it on the bike, and then I'd be cussing because I'd have to take it all off again. That would be my luck. Okay. So we screw those on. Grab our wrench here, and our ratchet. And then we're going to go ahead and just tighten these down. Good and tight. That. We have our two long Allens to assemble it. And there you have it. Disassembled, cleaned, reassembled oil pump. Again, some of the differences in the oil pumps, what to look for. As you've seen, they break, especially if we have stuff go through the motor there. But it's a good thing to look to see if we have any pitting or anything like that in there as well, because small pieces, especially steel, will cause havoc in there if they get sucked from the bladder back up into the oil filter, and hopefully not through the oil filter and into the motor. But it's one of those things that it's something very easy to do. It's very important that you check this if you've got some kind of carnage or some kind of debris that you think has gone through the motor or that's in the bladder itself. You know, if you're washing definitely if you're washing the bladder out and cleaning out the bladder, you should surely take the oil pump apart and check as well. You don't want something in there after cleaning everything else and then having that just get pushed right back into the motor. So, other than that, shoot us some comments down below. Likes, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Peace out.